Hey everybody, you're watching KTAL News Now. I'm your host Anthony Mocklin, and we have some very special guests here today as we're joined by Frankie Faison and Rob Sayegh, who are here to talk about their upcoming movie Beyond the Rush. Thank you guys so much for being here today.
Thanks.
Pleasure to be here.
So Frankie, what initially drew you to Beyond the Rush and like made you want to be a part of it?
Well, reading the script, actually, it was presented to my team, my manager, and he said, "There's interest in you for this film, and would you take a look at it and see if you have any interest?" And I really did connect to it very much from the very beginning, and it was something that I felt that. I would be happy to be a participant, to be a part of, and to share my talent in telling this amazing story, which touches upon a lot of things that I really believe in as a person and as an act and as an artist.
That's awesome. And Rob, you mentioned previously that Beyond the Rush was channeled from your own experience with loss. How did you sort of balance, the emotional vulnerability with the film, like with its like artistic elements?
So Beyond the Rush started out in 1992 as a short story when I was a senior in high school. Believe it or not, the two main characters were Edward Claiborne and Samuel Grievous. And so over the 33 years, it developed into a short film. And then after the short film, I wrote it into this feature length film. And the only way to get to the core um, of Beyond the Rush and to explain the emotion in it and to really portray it is to have lived like kind of lived my life. So over the 30 years that it took to really get this film out, unfortunately I've had to go through some of my own demons. Getting sober and May 8th, 2018. It's my sobriety date. Falling in love with a girl who actually had an opiate heroin problem. So learning that world because I never knew anything about it. I played baseball through college, and I drank and drank and did some smoked weed or something. But going into the hardcore drugs, I never did. So I had fallen in love with a girl who was unfortunately addicted to the opiate world, and then learned about that whole world in terms of her demise. And unfortunately, we lost her a few years ago. Right after I lost her, I wrote the first version of this script, and I was still drinking at that time, but I poured a lot of my depression, my love, God, my anger, my my depression. You know, into that first version of the script in 2017. And so, basically the only way to get to something that real in a script is kind of living life. And unfortunately had to live through some of those times, but fortunately made it through and got to a point of getting sober, writing this script, putting myself in a position of rewriting it for 7 years to put it in front of someone like a Frankie Faison who when it went out to him, I never thought in a million years he would say yes to the role. So getting someone like him to play that preacher, and that preacher came from, that's not in my past. That's just then kind of a character that came up in as I wrote the script, and it took on a life of its own. And then being able to put that in front of someone like Frankie who said yes and came and did the role better than I could have ever written it. So it was amazing to turn loss and addictions and mental illness into this triumph in the movie, because that's kind of what it is. And Preacher Yearwood, who Frankie plays, is sort of like the counselor to the main character, right? In his own way, he's his savior, and his powerful performance taking on that role is everything in the movie. The whole movie, halfway through, when he comes in, it changes the whole dynamic of it. So I was lucky enough to get it in front of actors like Frankie and Mina and Bill and Chris and Tom, everyone in it. So, and Kathy and Eric and John. So um, yeah, that's what I have to say about trying to turn loss into to finding. into salvation.
Hmm. And Frankie, I know you've worked with, countless directors and numerous projects start your career. What was it like working with Rob, in his directorial debut? Were there any challenges, or did y'all just kind of kick things off pretty smoothly?
Well, I've always been a collaborator. That's part of my DNA, I think. And Rob came in with, he was very upfront about, you know, this being his, his initial project directing like this. And, he welcomed any input that I could give him. And the only input that I could actually give him, because it was his vision, it was his story, but I wanted to be an active part in it and not to take away from it, but just add all of my experience and knowledge to it. Rob was very open to as a director to work with. He was very embracing and welcoming of any ideas that I have. We had some times that we did some things that, like in the ceremony in the church, for instance, it was there was the need for a little bit of background. So I come from a very strong religious background, and the church is very important to me. So I mean, we play. I says, I asked Rob, I said, you mind if I play around with some things that could be like going underneath the dialogue that we're having with the main characters. And some of them were the spiritual songs, which I'm very much connected to. And some of it was some of the scriptures, some of the messages, the words. So, and Rob was like, man, bring it on. Whatever you have, you can contribute, bring it. I would welcome it. And like I say, it's no such thing as a bad idea. You put an idea out there, and if it can work, it's great. If it's not, then you can always take it out. So I think that Rob, from what I saw in the film, after seeing the film, I think that he had that collaborative spirit with everyone, because all the performances, they seem to emulate, radiate from the kind of person that Rob is. I could see and hear his voice and his welcoming an encouraging thing of saying, let's do this together. Let's all do this together. There were no egos, no, nobody's this or nobody's that. We're all there together to tell this story. And I'm just very proud of to have worked with him. I love to work with younger talents, and not just in age, but in coming into the business. And like I say, Rob was a very much welcomed one in that aspect. So I just think it was a very we hit it off from the very beginning. I think that he was openly embracing me, and I was openly embracing him, because anyone who can write a story like this and then begin to put it out into a film, I mean, that's to me, they get a big hand clap from me, because I mean, I know how tough and difficult that is to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. And Rob, I know this film explores some, very deep themes of, ambition and personal growth, battling demons like y'all were talking about. How do you relate to those themes in your own life or career?
Well, I think it's all about never giving up, and knowing that we have choices to make, and we don't, man, we've all made some bad choices in our lives. We all know that, and but that we have choices to make, and that you can sometimes make up for them, and we can make the right choices, and don't get too down on yourself if you make the wrong one, because there's a way out. There's a line in there where Samuel's looking in the mirror and he's like, me, a father, and his mother is his conscience. And she says, well, maybe not a bad idea. And he said, well, what about the demons? I feel trapped. And she said, there's always a way out. There's always an escape. So I think people at the lowest points, we don't think there's a way out, but there is. And I hope that the message of this movie, dealing with such tough issues and some dark commentary, is that we're all in this together, and that we're here for each other, that we're all sharing this human experience, and that at the worst of times, there is an escape. There is an option. And in the movie, you see that Samuel does make this choice, right? And his friend Teddy kind of, without ruining the movie, doesn't. You kind of, so some people don't make it out, some people do, but at the end, that you get people to have some hope that there are these people there in your life, um, who can give you some advice and can listen. So I think within my own life, as a writer, I always had bartending jobs because I needed money. It was not easy to be paid to be a writer. And 30 years later, I'm putting out my first film. Uh, it's just, didn't stop. I didn't give up, and now distribution. I'm looking for that deal, and I won't stop until we get the right one, because these performances by these guys and girls need to be seen. It's a special piece. It came out. I mean, who knows what's going to come out? I mean, Frankie will tell you more so than me. Being a part of many movies, like, you don't know what you're going to get, even if you think it's good. You got to go into the edit room, and then you got to put that whole thing together, and you never know. So we got something here. I think we got something special. We got some special people, and we all had a really good relationship. And I loved working with the actors, and they helped pull me over that finish line. So that was an amazing thing to be able to sit here with you now doing this interview, when I seriously, I could be dead. I mean, my drinking, if I didn't stop, that's where I was going. So that choice right now has put me, my choice to stop drinking has put me in front of you, and in front of this legendary actor, Frankie, who gave me the opportunity to make this movie. So
Yeah, and Frankie, I wanted to ask you, how are you as an actor, at this stage of your career, still finding new ways to continue to stay motivated and like challenge yourself?
Well, as an actor, I've always depended upon. I think that the writer is such an important piece of everything, as far as I'm concerned. And I think that the young writers with new ideas, or young writers who are expressing old ideas in a different way, in the way in which they affect them in their lives, those are the things that keep me challenged, that keep me going, because I know I've done I've done so many of the classics that they have filled me up to the brim with knowing that I can satisfy a lot of the artistic endeavors and needs that I have. But it's the new group of people that are coming on, people like Rob, who's bold enough to tell this story. And I want to be able to hear it, because I hear things in a way that are a little different, because sometimes you get older and you forget how you can affect, or how things can affect you just take it for granted. And like this situation, all of these issues that are dealt with in Beyond the Rush are very close to my heart. I mean, sexual abuse thing is really just one that I would pioneer against forever, because in these things, they're so quiet, and it's done so quietly in this film. Rob has done an amazing job of just seeking. These look like normal individuals, but then when you look deep into their souls, into their lives, you see that there are a lot of demons there that, like Rob is saying, he's lucky to be alive. They shouldn't be alive. They could be dead, because these are the demons that are driving, that will just eat you up from the inside out. No one ever knows about it until they open the paper one day and they say, "Oh, such and such a person is gone because of this and that." And you say, "Well, I never even had any idea." So I think that these are the things that keep me engaged and make me want to keep doing what I do until the day I'm no longer here. I'm going to be on a set someplace with kicking my shoes off, and they say, "Well, there he was. He did everything he could to just tell stories, human stories, bring them to life, and things that can affect and help people with their own problems, and like, and entertain as well." So all of those elements were in there. So that's how I keep going. That's the thing that drives my engine.
Hmm. Okay, so Rob, I know you've seen a lot of success so far during the film's, festival run. Has this sort of success like influenced your filmmaking like thought process or like the types of stories you want to tell like moving forward?
As a writer, uh, I've always just wanted to write books, to be honest with you. I never came up saying I wanted to write films or even make a film. I just thought I liked writing and telling stories, and I wanted to write novels. And I've written a couple, and believe it or not, they're the government conspiracy fiction. So this is way out of my genre. It was kind of just a story that evolved over a lifetime, and I feel like the universe gave me this story. But now that I did this, like I really wasn't going to direct it myself until Jay Spartak, who played Teddy, and he's a good friend of mine. He's like, you have to direct this. Like, there's no one else who can tell this story but you. So I took that under. I was like, okay, I'll do it. It's like so. Maybe it's better I didn't know what I was getting myself into, because I think if I knew what was coming ahead, maybe I wouldn't have. But I sort of just did it because I was, I didn't know any better. But now that I have done that, I would never let anyone direct anything I wrote. I have this, this novel called The Dividing Line that, like I said, government conspiracy fiction. I wrote it 25 years ago, but it's very relevant even today. I put that into a script years ago, and I'd love to get that project made. But going through this film festival route right now is trying to put me in a position to get a distribution deal. So I hope that this kind of is a nice resume builder, because it'll show investors or people who want to come on and make the next one, show them what I can do, and want to invest the money, because I basically I paid for this movie myself. So I was making this no matter what, sold all my stocks and all my crypto and took everything, pretty much my savings, and I made it. So I'm hoping that this will show what I can do with a limited budget. Imagine if you could, if I could have a bigger budget. So I think that it has turned out this good, and we're getting great reactions from everybody all over, from kids in college to people who are 80. I mean, everybody is really reacting to this. And as actors and writers and directors, that's what we do this for, to get reactions and engagement. So that we're doing that, I'm ready. I would love to do another one. And someone would, looking out from the outside, would say you're nuts, because what I went through to get through this one, and the editing, I can't even begin to tell you. But now that I did it, yeah, I would love to use it as a calling card to get some people on board to come and do some more films.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to anything that you might, come up with next in future projects. It was a really inspiring story. Um, and in the movie, Frankie, I know it's clear that your character has a very strong impact on the main character, Samuel. What sort of thought process did you have in order to kind of make that impact felt by, audiences?
Well, I mean, pretty much, I just take what I took what I had been given, by Rob in this wonderful story, or this powerful story, and it's very close to the things that I believe in. It's very hard. Sometimes it's very easy to let things come out of you that are already in you, a belief, a conviction, and that sort of thing. And those are the things that were really there. So, and in playing with Bill, who's lovely as an actor and as a human being, it was just, and I love being mentors for young folks. It's like, to me, I had some great mentors when I was growing up. And so for me to be in a position to be able to do that now is just, it means the world. So in doing that, I looked at him and spoke to him and talked to him, and he was like willing to learn so much, because he wanted to learn so much from what I had to give as an actor, because I've been doing this for over 50 years and he's relatively new, and he was just so respectful. And so whenever I come across actors like that, it just makes me feel proud and feel hope for the future, because if you don't have young people who don't respect the legends or the generations before them, then we're not going to be able to ever make any forward progress. But if they are listening and able to take those things that we have to give, then it makes us feel proud of what we've done, and it makes us feel eager to share. So all of those things, they were just, it was not hard, pardon me, to manifest those things because they were already there in place, and all I had to do was go with the momentum of the day.
And Rob, this film, I know we talked about this, but this film, clearly deals with, trauma, abuse, addiction. Like what would you say to someone who might have, experienced something similar? Like how can they get the help they need?
Well, what I would say is that there's always choices and there's always people to talk to, and that a lot of us, the main character, he's a functioning addict, and I'd say 90% of us people in this world are functioning addicts. So and what you see on the outside of someone isn't always what's going on in the inside. So for those people struggling, I would say, know that there's people like us out here that you can talk to. There's, I got through it in the worst of times, and losing people I loved and thinking there was nothing out there, like thinking there was nothing or nowhere to go, not caring if I lived, really, to be honest. But I got through it with the help of people who I know, and actually I went to some AA meetings, when I was starting to get sober. So that just to hear other people's stories and hear that you're not alone, and that there is hope. Those are the things I think can help people get through. And this movie, I wanted to give it a hopeful ending, and it took years. It took like 5 years. I didn't have a good ending. It was very dark, and I couldn't figure out how to make it happy. And only in the last year of writing it was I able to come up with something that, I don't want to ruin the ending, but it's got a good twist, and people can come out of that feeling like there is some hope, and that they can go on.
Yeah, my next question is just kind of for both y'all. I love watching, I don't know if y'all ever seen like the movie review site Letterboxd. They like ask actors and directors like their four favorite films and everything. So I just want to know like what you guys is like some of y'all's favorite movies were.
Frankie, you want to go first?
Yeah. Oh man, that has always been a very difficult question for me. Um, Shawshank Redemption has been in the news a lot lately, and that certainly was one of my favorite films. But there are a lot of the old classics. I mean, I just to put a pin on those things, it will be difficult because there's too many genres. There's comedy, there's horror, there's adventure, there's thriller, there's all of these things. So, I mean, I'm just going to throw Shawshank out there as one that I can watch over and over and over again and never get tired of it because it's a story of innocence and betrayal and truth and trust. So that would be up there. Coming to America would be good for a comedy because it's one that's lasted, it stood the test of time, and that. But it could go on. Pardon me, I'm going to have to take a drink of water. Rob, you can talk.
Yeah, yeah, I got you. So I'll give you four. I mean, like you said, there's probably 10, but like four. Goodwill Hunting, Requiem for a Dream, Donnie Darko, Usual Suspects. That's four, and I would say Joker. So I got a lot of dark in there, but also, I mean, Pulp Fiction. So I already went to six. Tarantino, unbelievable. So if I had to break it down, those are six, and Shawshank Redemption is one of the best movies ever made. Funny thing about Shawshank is, and I didn't know this up until like just probably now 10 years ago, but that it was based off a short story that Stephen King wrote. So that's to me an amazing feat as well. Uh, those are those are my top movies that I could just spit off the top of my head, but it is
Yeah,
hard to
yeah,
pick.
it's hard to just pick a
I want
couple.
to say, I want to say Star Wars, Rocky. God, it's Return of the Jedi.
Hmm.
Um, uh, yeah, those are tough. It's funny because yeah, that's yeah, I think that's those are my top.
Yeah, Good Will Hunting is definitely in my top four 100% as well. That's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, when can, those who are interested in the film like be able to see it in like a wider format? I know you said you were working on like a distribution deal and stuff.
Yeah. Well, right now I'm working on a distribution deal. I'll definitely get in touch with you and let you know when that's available, like when it's available in theaters, when it's available in streaming. Right now, to follow what's going on, you can on Instagram is Beyond the Rush Film. So our Instagram handle is at Beyond the Rush Film, and then there's a website beyondtherush.com. So right now, those two places you can follow, what's going on, updated news, updated stories, and when I get when I get that deal, I will let you definitely know so you can get it out there to your audience, and we'll spread the word as fast as we can, and as much as we can.
Sounds good. Is there anything that I didn't ask either of you today that y'all would want to touch on?
Well, only who is my favorite new director. Rob is just check that box. Congratulations, Rob.
Thank,
You know,
thank,
they say you're as good as your next job, but I'm as good as my next, enjoyable director that I've worked with and film. And Rob, you've checked that box, and I just wish you all the best of success in your life. And you've been a pleasure to work with and a pleasure to know. So I wanted to just say that.
well, thank you, Frankie, and thank you for trusting me and coming in and taking the role and turning Arthur Yearwood into a legend. I mean, Arthur Yearwood should go down as a legendary character, and you're as big and as great as that character is, and it was an amazing pleasure and God honor to work with you on this movie, and I hope we can work together on some future projects. Maybe an origin story for Arthur Yearwood. So
Okay. All right.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for taking the time to speak with me today. I really appreciate it.
thank you, Anthony.
Yeah, thanks, Anthony.
So yeah, be sure to look out for Beyond the Rush coming soon. If you haven't yet, be sure to download our news and weather apps on ktlnews.com, which is also where you can get your breaking news, top stories, trending topics, and you can join us on KTL News Now every Tuesday and Wednesday at 1 p.m. But for now, I'm Anthony Mocklin, and thank you for joining us.